at the bottom of 1462. We're actually going to pick up just after about line 780. Jocasta has come in and Oedipus is talking to her about this prophecy that he's, been told about via Tiresias and such. And she says, prophecy, really? She says, listen to me and learn some peace of mind. No skill in the world, nothing human can penetrate the future. Okay? Nothing human can penetrate the future. She means we can't foresee the future. We can't foretell the future. We can't predict the future. But she says nothing human can. All right? Well, where do the prophecies come from? For the most part, from what we've seen so far, they come from the oracle at Delphi. Okay? Well, who speaks via the oracle at Delphi? The god Apollo. It's not human. All right? We also see Tiresias, the blind prophet. Okay? Where does he get his information from? Let's put it that way. Well, sometimes it's implied he gets his information from the god, that is, the god kind of speaks through him. Other times, he does it through what's called augury, which, if you remember, Hamlet says, we defy augury in Act 5 when he's talking with Horatio. And what he means by that is we don't pay any attention to reading the signs, so to speak. Well, Tiresias does. And he does this by, capturing a bird, slitting its gut, spilling the entrails, and seeing how the entrails land on the ground. Or, getting bones and casting them and seeing what shape the bones take. All those kinds of things. And it was thought, the Greek religious thought, that the gods could kind of speak through that, through someone who could understand what those signs mean. Okay? So, nothing human can penetrate the future. And she goes, and here's proof. And what does she tell them? She tells them about an oracle, a prophecy they received from the oracle. Okay? What was the prophecy? The prophecy was to she and her husband Laius, the previous king. And the prophecy was, notice she says, an oracle came to Laius one fine day. I won't say it was from Apollo himself, but his underlings, his priests. Now, she's implying something there. She's implying the priest might lie. The priest might not actually say what the god says. Or the priest might say, here's the word of God, Apollo, but they might be lying. Okay? She's not challenging Apollo, because that would be stupid in their system of thought. You challenge the gods and they strike you down. Okay? So, she says, here's the prophecy. The doom would strike him down at the hands of a son, our son, in fact, to be born of our own flesh and blood. So, the prophecy was, our own son, our own flesh and blood would kill him. But then she goes on, but Laius, so we're told, was killed by strangers, not our son, at a place where 3 roads meet. So notice what she does. The prophecy, she says, was our own son would kill him. And then she leaves that aside for a moment. The information about her son. It says, but he was killed, we were told, at a place where 3 roads meet. And that place is called Phokis. All right? Then she goes back to her son. So she mentions her son being the agent of death in the prophecy. She tells us he died here at the hand of strangers. Then she goes back to her son. Kind of like, and besides, my son wasn't 3 days old when the boy's father took him, fastened his ankles, gave him to a henchman, and had the henchman fling him away on a mountain. So, couldn't have been him because it was strangers, and couldn't have been him because we abandoned him on a mountain when he was 3 days old. Obviously, what's going to happen to an infant abandoned on a mountain when he's 3 days old? It's going to die. Okay? What's the problem in her logic? What did she and Laius, put it this way, fail to do? Louder. She thought they did. Fastened his ankles. How? Got some twine and tied them together? No, put his ankles like on a stump of wood, got a big old nail and jammed it right through him. Okay? They didn't personally kill the child. I mean, put yourself in this mindset, in this world for a moment. You've been told your son is going to kill you. Do you leave the job to stopping that from happening to somebody else? No. I mean, there's a reason we have the phrase, if you want a job done right, do it yourself. Laius doesn't. Okay? I mean, soon as the baby was born, he could have taken the umbilical cord, wrapped around the neck, and pulled. He could have slit its throat. He could have, because they had it then, before the child was born, could have aborted it, but didn't. So all kinds of things, right? So she says, that's how the seers and their revelations mapped out the future. See how wrong they were. Don't worry about prophecy. Oedipus, wait, stop there. You said something. Hearing you just now, my mind wandered, my thoughts racing back and forth. And I think I mentioned this the other day, or it was finishing just about on this. Racing back and forth. You know, what does the back and forth imply? Kind of back in time, forward in time. Not forward in the future, but forward like to now. Racing back to when? Well, what does he say? Because she asked, what do you mean? Why so anxious? You said Laius was killed at a place where 3 roads meet? She says, yeah, that's what we heard. Where? Where exactly? And that's when she tells him the name of the place. See, the reason his mind, his thought, races back, he remembers killing somebody at a place where 3 roads meet. And it races back forth because she just mentioned that. Now he asks, where? Because there could be lots of places where 3 roads meet. Okay? And she says, Phukis. When? How long ago? And she says, let's see. The heralds reported Laius was dead, and you appeared. So when? Like the day before, you showed up. My God, what have you planned to do to me? Okay? My God, that doesn't necessarily mean my Apollo, my Zeus. He's just kind of saying, you powers that are up there, what the hell's going on? What are you doing to me? And she says, well, what's wrong, Oedipus? Not yet. Not yet what? Because she says, well, aren't you? Not yet. That is, I'm not going to give you the answer yet. Why? He doesn't know for sure yet. But it's kind of interesting that he says not yet. Because earlier, when he was talking with Tiresias, what did he do? He leaped to huge conclusions. You're part of the plot. And then he said, without any instigation, without any hinting, and Crayon was involved. Again, jumped to wild conclusions. Now he's kind of backing up. He's taking things slowly, methodically. Describe Laius. How did he look? Had he reached his prime? And she says, he was swarthy. Why? Because he's Greek. kind of dark olivey skin, not pale, pasty American white, swarthy, gray had just begun to streak his temples, his build, kind of like you, in fact. A kiss of death. Oh, no, no. I think I've just called down a dreadful curse upon myself. Just called down from his opening speech, where he says, if I don't catch the murderer, etc., let this fall on me, etc. Okay? Why? I simply didn't know. Didn't know what? Didn't know what he was saying. Could be. What else didn't he know?
He was adopted.
That he was adopted, we find out later. Not very much later, but later. What else didn't he know? He didn't know who the guy was at the crossroads that he killed. He didn't know a lot. Okay? Which is why, I threw in kind of as my definition of tragedy. The situation where someone has got to make a decision, but he or she doesn't have the information, he or she needs to make the decision. That is, their information is spotty at best. It's sketchy. They don't have everything. What are you saying? I shudder to look at you. I have a terrible fear the blind seer can see. Blind seer, blindness versus sight. I'll know in a moment. That is, I'm not sure yet. What's beginning to happen here? I don't remember if I had a thing on this on the quiz or not. The beginning of what Aristotle calls recognition. He's starting to go, oh, crap. I've totally blown it here. And he says, I'll know in a moment. Okay? He says one thing more. Anything. Afraid as I am to ask, and I'll answer. Okay? So he asks for more information about how Laius was killed, or where he was, who was with him. Did he go with a light or heavy escort? Several men at arms, like a lord, a king? Yeah, there were 5 in the party, a herald among them. So there was Laius. That probably means Laius and 4 others. Okay? And a single wagon carrying Laius. So Laius is in the wagon, and it's like there's 2 men on either side to protect him. Now I can see it all clear as day. He can see what all? Well, he remembers killing a man in a wagon with 4 escorts. I can see it all also means what? Kind of this whole thing from the beginning. Okay? From the beginning, as we're going to be told in a few moments, of when he heard a prophecy. Right? But he's still not sure. Because what have we been told about Laius's killers? More than one. See, Oedipus remembers meeting a man in a wagon at a road, or at a place where 3 roads met. But he was alone when he killed this man. He's been told there were multiple killers. One is not multiple. So if it was multiple killers, it couldn't have been him. Okay? So who told you? How do you know about all this? She says a servant, the lone survivor. Is he in the palace? She says no. In fact, she says, soon as he returned from the scene and saw you in the palace, he asked to be shipped like to the farthest reaches of our kingdom. He wanted to be as far from the palace as possible. Okay? Can we bring it back? Oedipus is like, I got to ask him some questions. Well, yeah, probably. She says, I need to know what's bothering you. And so what does Oedipus do? He gives us, as we talked about, I don't remember, first or second day, he gives us a lot of what's called exposition, background information. Notice, if we didn't have this information, the play wouldn't make any sense. Okay? So we get it now, rather than at the beginning of the play. If we got it at the beginning of the play, there wouldn't be any suspense built up. All right? So he tells us, bottom of 1463, line 852 and following. My father was Polybus, king of Corinth. My mother Merope. I was held the prince of the realm, blah, 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 blah. A man at a banquet drank too much. He was really drunk, and he shouted out, I'm not my father's son. So the drunk said, you're adopted. I went to my father and mother. They said, don't worry about it. It's not true. But it bothered him. So we're told, line 870, 68 and following. I set out for Delphi, and the god Apollo spurned me. That is, he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't answer my questions. But first he flashed before my eyes a future great with pain, terror, disaster. That is, the questions he wouldn't answer, am I adopted? The god doesn't answer that. All the god says is, you are fated a couple with your mother. You will bring a breed of children into the light no man can bear to see. You will kill your father, the one who gave you life. So, you're going to sleep with your mother. You're going to produce children that are your brothers and sisters. And you're going to kill your father. But I'm not going to answer the question about whether or not you're adopted. Put yourself in Oedipus' shoes. You love your mother and father. You don't want to kill one, sleep with the other, so you run away. He says, I abandoned Corinth. 881. And as I reached that very spot where you say Laius died, he says, I saw a herald, a brace of colts, drawing a wagon, mounted on the bench, a man, just like you've described him. He wouldn't move, so I killed him. He wouldn't move. He wouldn't get out of the way. Okay? If there is any blood tie, 899, between Laius and the stranger, what man alive more miserable than I? More hated by the gods. I am the man, no alien, no citizen, welcomes to his house. If there is any relation, that is, he's saying, if this is Laius, then I'm the cause of his death. I'm the cause of the plague. All the curses I call down will fall on me. I'll have to leave. Okay? What part of the recognition has he not arrived at yet? Laius is my father. He's not made that connection yet. He doesn't have the information so far that he needs for that. Okay? So, and he goes on, and you, his wife, I've touched your body with these, the hands that killed your husband. Notice, not in you, his wife, and my mother. He's not going there yet. He's just saying, I could be responsible for the death of the previous king. 910, excuse me. Wasn't I born for torment? Look me in the eyes. I am abomination, heart and soul, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, the leader says, my Lord, you fill our hearts with fear, 924. But at least until you question the witness, take hope. That is, you're not sure yet. Wait until you ask. And he says, that's what I'm going to do. He's my last hope. He's crucial. Your cost. And okay, so once he appears, what then? Well, if his story matches yours, then I've escaped the worst. Meaning, if his story matches what you said, I can't be Elias's killer. Why? Your story said killers. I remember killing, where I was the sole killer, a man and his 4 heralds, or 4 travelers. One can't equal many, he says, 934. But if he refers to one killer, that was me. Okay? So, Jocasta says, can't be. It's impossible. Why? I told you precisely what he said, and he can't retract it now. That is, I related to you, kind of, she's saying, verbatim, what he said. He can't change that. Okay? But she goes on. And in fact, not only I heard it, the whole city heard it. And even if he should vary his first report by one man more or less, still, my lord, he could never make the murder of Laius truly fit the prophecy. Why? Apollo was explicit. My son was doomed to kill my husband. My son, he never had a chance. They destroyed him first. Okay? So she's saying, you can't be his killer. Now what is she doing? Earlier she said prophecy, don't pay any attention, prophecy. Because the prophet said, my son would kill our husband. Now she's saying, you can't be his killer. Why? Because the prophecy said, my son would be his killer. But my son couldn't have been because he was doomed. She's kind of trying to have it both ways. So much for prophecy. All right? So, they keep talking. The chorus comes in. Jocasta and Oedipus go off into the palace. And the chorus comes in and starts talking about destiny. Destiny. That's fate. What will be, will be. Can't change it. Okay? In fact, they say, line 972 and following, if any man comes striding high and mighty in all he says and does, no fear of justice, no reverence for the temples of the gods, let a rough doom tear him down, repay his pride, etc., etc. Okay? So, Jocasta comes out, and she says, she starts talking to the chorus and says, Oedipus is beside himself. He's racked with anguish and grief. He won't admit it. The prophecies are meaningless. Okay? So she comes out there to offer prayers and such. And a messenger comes in. And the messenger says, is this the palace of the king? Oedipus, I think he's called. Right? And the leader says, yep, this is it. Here's his queen, his wife, and mother, next line, of his children. Notice, his wife and mother of his children. And so the messenger says, I've come to bring news for Oedipus. She's like, where are you from? He says, Corinth. Okay. What's the news he has to bring? Oedipus's father is dead. The old king of Corinth has died, bottom of 1467, and he's essentially saying, or he's relating, they want to make Oedipus king of Corinth. Go. She tells the servant, go get Oedipus. Tell him to come out here. Why? If what he's saying is true, then the prophecy Oedipus heard also can't be true. Because his father's dead and Oedipus was here when he died. Couldn't have killed him. Okay? You prophecies, line 1036, top of 1468. You prophecies of the gods, where are you now? Come on, you're meaningless. Prophecy we heard, prophecy Oedipus heard, they're both false. This is the man that Oedipus feared for years. Not this messenger, but Polybus, the old king of Corinth. So Oedipus comes out and says, what's up? Why did you call me? And she brings the messenger in and says, listen to what he has to say. Okay? So, Oedipus, why? Who is this? He's from Corinth. He's got news for you. Polybus is dead. And he turns to the messenger. How? How did he die? Murder? Sickness? What? A light tip of the scales can put old bones to rest. He died of old age. Okay? So, Oedipus turns to Jocasta. 1054. Why look to the prophet's hearth, the fires of the future? Why do we pay any attention to prophets and their prophecies? Why scan the birds that scream above our heads? They winged me on to the murder of my father. Did they? That is, these prophecies were going to lead me to, that was my doom. That was going to be my doom. He's dead. I had nothing to do with it. Okay? Yocasta, told you. Oedipus, so you did. I was lost in fear. But there is that other part of the prophecy, my mother's bed. I don't want to go there. Literally. And she says, don't worry about that. 1069. What should a man fear? It's all chance. Chance rules our lives. What does she mean by that? Now, notice the question. What should a man fear? Okay? And then she says, it's all chance. Chance rules our lives. What is she asking with this question? Can we fear the past? No, it can't hurt you. The present, that is right this moment? No, not really, because every moment is the present, and that's it. A second from now is the future, a second in the past is the past. So what we tend to fear is we tend to fear the future. Because it's what? It's unknown. Aristotle's teacher, make sure I get this right. Yeah. No, Socrates. Plato's teacher. Plato was Aristotle's teacher. Plato's teacher, Socrates, said, when we fear death, what we are fearing is the unknown. Because we don't know what death is. We don't know what comes after death. That's what Hamlet was saying in To Be or Not to Be speech. You know, it's the undiscovered country from whose bourne no one returns. All right. So when she asked, what should a man fear? She replies with that comment, chance rules our lives. Chance here, she kind of means fate. In other words, why do you worry about the future? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop that. It's a crapshoot. That's it. All our lives is nothing but a crapshoot. There's a giant craps table and there's a bunch of gods, fate sitting around it, rolling the dice. And what you get is what you get. And that's it. Not a man on earth can see a day ahead groping through the dark. Why? Because all of us are blind about what's coming. Totally blind. Okay? We might think, what's coming? Tomorrow. I don't know. Coronavirus. Stock market crash. Whatever. And yet, what could happen literally, what could happen to me in the very next second could happen to each of you. It'd be more likely to me. I could drop dead of a heart attack. Or have a stroke. Literally. Tomorrow is nothing. All right? So she says, better to live at random best we can. Live at random. Live for now. Live for right now. Not for 5 minutes from now, 10 minutes. Oh, and as for this marriage with your mother nonsense, have no fear. Many a man before you in his dreams has shared his mother's bed. And that's where Freud came up with his Oedipus Complex, which is the underlying basis of everything Sigmund Freud taught. It's the underlying basis for all psychoanalysis, all right? And it's basically every boy wants to replace his father in his mother's bed. There's a corollary to that. There's also the Electra Complex, based upon another play that features a girl named Electra. Okay? And with the Electra Complex, guess how this one works? Every girl/woman wants to replace her mother in her father's bed. It's this one line that Oedipus bases Freud, that Freud bases all of the Oedipus Complex on. It's pretty crazy, if you ask me, okay? Don't worry about it. They're shadows. That is, they mean nothing. Live, Oedipus, as if there's no tomorrow. Live now. Okay? He said, brave words, and you'd persuade me if mother weren't alive. That is, okay, dad's dead. I can rock on, but mom's still alive. I gotta be careful. Okay? She says, but your father's death. Why is she hanging everything on this part? Just like she's hanging everything on the prophecy about Elias and I was totally meaningless. Why? Because we put our son to death. He couldn't kill us. He couldn't kill him, have sex with me. She's saying, the prophecy had two parts. If part of it is wrong, if you do a mathematical equation and part of your answer is wrong, guess what? It's all wrong. Okay? If NASA, when they were sending, Armstrong and the others to the moon, if they had part of the software wrong, what would happen? No go to the moon. Okay? They'd be off by thousands of miles. He says, yeah, I know, but she's still alive. And the messenger, what's this? What are you talking about? Because he's just kind of standing aside, listening. Who's this woman that makes you afraid? Merope, wife of Polybus, queen. Well, what do you fear about her? That dreadful prophecy. He says, tell me the prophecy. So Oedipus tells him the prophecy. Wait, you're afraid of that? That kept you out of Corinth? My father, old man, so I wouldn't kill my father. That's it? That's all? Well, seeing I came with such goodwill, my king, he refers to him now as king, why don't I rid you of that old worry now? Let me put you totally at ease. I'll give you all kinds of reward for that. Okay? So you'll come home? Never. I will never go near my parents. My boy, it's clear you don't know what you're doing. And that's the problem. His ignorance is great. Ignorance simply means not knowing. To be called ignorant isn't necessarily a slam. People can call me ignorant every day of the week, every moment of the day when it comes to recording industry technology, or aerospace, or physics, or math, or you name it, okay? What do you mean? Oedipus asks. If you ran from them, always dodging home, the prophecy, messenger, well, then you'd be covered with guilt from both your parents. He said, okay, now you're finally understanding. But you don't know? What? Polybus was nothing to you. That's why. Not in blood. He was not, let's use the modern term, Polybus was not your biological father. What are you saying? Polybus was not my father, no more than I am. He and I are equals. Now, Oedipus hears that. He's like, you're a servant. He was king. You can't be equals. How does the messenger mean he and I are equals? In relation to begetting you, we're equals. He didn't beget you any more than I beget you. You're nothing to me, neither was he. No more your father than I am. Then why did he call me a son? You were a gift. In fact, I'm the one who gave you to him. Okay. So what starts going through Oedipus's mind at this moment? Wait. Then how could he love me so? He didn't have his own son. He loved you as his own. And how did you get me? Buy me? Slave trade? Find me? By accident? I stumbled on you down the woody flanks of Mount Kithaeron. And what did Jocasta say earlier? We gave you to a henchman, and he deposited you on Kithaeron. So close. That is so close to where we are. What were you just passing through? No, I was watching over my flocks, grazing them on. Oh, so you were a herdsman, vagabond. I was your savior too, my son, in your worst hour. Oh, when you picked me up, was I in pain? Notice, I was your savior in your worst hour. Was I in pain? Look at your ankles. You tell me. Why remind me of that? Your ankles were pinned together. I set you free. I've had it from the cradle, and you got your name from that. Who did it? Who did this? Who pinned my ankles together? It's like your thoughts should be racing back and forth at this point. I don't know. The one who gave you to me, he'd know more. What? And he says, yes. There was another shepherd. Do you know him? Describe it. He was a servant of, what was that old guy's name? Linus, that was it. Jocasta turned sharply. Why? She knows. All the pieces have just fallen. It's like Minecraft. All the pieces have just fallen in place. And she's like, oh, crap. But notice what she's willing to do at this point. She's willing, if Oedipus will just shut up and get the messenger to shut up and not call the old shepherd back, she's willing to do what? Let's just pretend it never happened. And let's just go back into the palace and live the way we've been living. She would know everything. I don't know, maybe she'd go, okay, we're going to be celibate from this point on. And Oedipus is like, well, I don't understand. No. The king of the land who ruled here long? Yeah, that's him. Herdsman was his man. Is he still alive? Well, the messenger came from Corinth. How does he know? He says, look at, anybody know? Leader, I think that's the guy you sent for. But the queen would know. And Oedipus turns to his wife. Do you remember the man? Is that the one? Why ask? Old shepherd, talk. Don't give it another thought. Don't even think. Whereas earlier, she's kind of, pushing the envelope. Ask away. Get the answers. Why? Because prophecies are meaningless. Oedipus, what? Fail? Give up now? Fail to solve the mystery of my birth? Stop. In the name of God, if you love your own life, call off this search. She's implying, if you stop now, you can still do what? Live every day for the moment. Her life will suck from this point on, right? Because she knows the truth. Oedipus, he's got inklings. He wonders. My suffering is enough. What does she mean? Is her suffering enough for her? I think that's clear. I think she's also saying, my suffering, it'll be enough for the both of us. I will keep living with you how we are living, that is, in suffering, but you won't know everything. She'll take his suffering almost as if it were. Oedipus, courage. Even if my mother turns out to be a slave and I a slave 3 generations back. In other words, he's thinking what? Okay, so you took me from the hands of a shepherd. The shepherd served Elias. Maybe the shepherd and his wife, or maybe the shepherd and some prostitute hooked up. And I was born, and the shepherd didn't want to rape it. Don't do this, Jocasta says. Listen to you. No more. I must know it all. See the truth at last. No, for your sake, I want the best for you. What does she mean by the best? Does she want the best in the kind of the traditional, let's say, Christian sense? I want you to live a life of holiness, whatever, and meet Jesus at the end. No. What does she mean by the best? Happiness here. That's it. Which is going to get contrasted with the very last line of the play. Okay? You're doomed. You're doomed. That's a somewhat, what's the phrase I want? Somewhat tame way of saying what to Oedipus. How would we say that today? Let's say on the street, not in the classroom, with your friends. You're effed. You're effed, Oedipus. No matter what you do from this point on. May you never fathom who, not what, who you are. Fathom, plumb to the depths. Why? Because if he does, then he'll look at his wife and go, ew. Oedipus, give me the servant now. Jocasta, man of agony. Protos agonist. First sufferer. Chief sufferer. Okay, that's what the protagonist is. Man of agony. That is the only name I have for you. That, no other, ever, ever, ever. And she runs in the palace. That is, from this point on, Oedipus, we're just going to call you agonistes. Sufferer. Okay? The leader, where's she gone? Because it's suddenly very quiet in the palace. And he's like, that doesn't sound right. Somebody should go check on her. Oedipus, let it burst. That's in response to this. From this silence, something monstrous may come bursting forth. Let it burst. Whatever will, whatever must. I must know my birth, no matter how common. He still thinks, okay, I'm just a low-life slave, son. She, perhaps, with her woman's pride, may well be mortified by my birth. He's thinking Jocasta has run away because she's thinking, I'm the queen, and I've been sleeping with the son of a slave. I've married the son of a slave. He doesn't know where it's going yet. Okay? So the chorus goes back and forth, and the shepherd comes in. And Oedipus says, line 12, 15, I bet that's the shepherd. Okay? So the leader brings him in and says, yep, that's him. That's one of Elias's men. So Oedipus turns to the messenger. Is this him? Is this the one you got me from? And the messenger says, you're looking at him. So Oedipus addresses the shepherd. Come here, answer all my questions. Did you serve Elias? He says, yes. I was a slave, born and reared in the palace. Okay, what kind of work did you do? And he tells him. Okay, where? And he tells him the mountain and such. Okay, and then he asks the shepherd, do you know this man, the messenger? He looks at him. I don't know, maybe memory's bad. I'm old. And the messenger refreshes his memory. Remember when we used to, graze our flocks on Mount Kitharon and et cetera, et cetera? Yeah, a long time ago. Okay? Messenger, remember the little baby you gave me? The one whose ankles were pinned together? Damn, shut your mouth. Oops. Touchy subject. Oedipus tells the shepherd, don't lash out at him, etc., etc. So Oedipus and the shepherd go back and forth. Oedipus, as the guard sees the shepherd, they pull his arms back. Why? It's torture. They're going to force the truth out of him. Okay? Did you give him that child? 1271. I did. I wish to God I died that day. Okay? You've got your wish if you don't tell the truth. The more I tell, the worse the death I'll die. That is, the more you come to understand the truth about yourself, the worse will be my own death. You're gonna have me tortured. Okay? So, shepherd says, yes, I gave it to him. Where'd you get it from? Was it yours? Wasn't mine. I got it from somebody else. And Oedipus looks at the chorus. Which one of them? That is, whose baby was it? Whose house? No. It came from Laius. From a slave? No. His son, they said it was. His son. But the one inside, your wife, she can tell you. My wife? She gave it to you? Yes, my king. Why? What for? To kill it. Oedipus. Her own child? How could she? Shepherd. She was afraid. Frightening prophecies. What? They said he'd kill his parents. But you gave him to the... I pitied the little baby, master. Oh God, all come true, all burst to light. Notice. It had everything been in the dark. Now it's burst to light. That can also be an image of what? Think about it for a moment. An awful lot of what's being talked about in the play is birth. Oedipus's birth, okay? An image of going from somewhere dark to somewhere light. And what do babies do right after they're born? They wail and scream. Okay? All come true, all burst to light. O light, now let me look my last on you. I stand revealed at last. This is both the recognition and this is the reversal. This is where everything turns. Okay? Cursed in my birth. Cursed how? Prophecy. Cursed in marriage. How? Prophecy. Cursed in the lives I cut down with these hands. Lives? Well, Laius and his men. And the chorus, oh, the generations of men, the dying generations, adding the total of all your lives, I find they come to nothing. Now remember, the chorus comments upon what has happened and comments upon kind of the meaning of what's happening. What has the chorus just said about the meaning of human life? It amounts to nothing. Does there exist, is there a man on earth who seizes more joy, think Midsummer Night's Dream, who seizes more joy than just a dream, a vision? Is joy here in this life anything more than just a fleeting glimpse? Okay? So they go back and forth, or they say their lines. And a messenger comes out from the palace. He says, oh, you're going to see horrors in a minute. And the leader replies, 1362 or so, God knows we have pains enough already. What can you add to them? That is, we have pains enough. Why? Well, everything that's happening in Thebes, what they've just found out about their king, right? What that implies for their future kings, because the kings come from whom? The previous king. Their future kings will come from Oedipus, who also happen to be Oedipus's brothers. There's going to be problems there. Okay? So don't talk to us about pain and suffering. What can you add? The queen's dead. Okay, that's more. How? By her own hand. Once she'd broken in through the gates, dashing past us, frantic, whipped to fury, ripping her hair out with both hands, she rushed, flinging herself across the bridal bed, floors damming, or door slamming behind her. And what does she do? She hangs herself. Oedipus goes in, finds her hanging, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but notice she flung herself across the bridal bed. I kind of imagine that what she does is she hangs herself over the bed. Kind of like, ew. I died when I, did this. And so what does Oedipus do? He runs in, he finds her. First he tries for a sword, he can't get one. He finds his mother in 1403. He rips off her brooches. That is, she's got these pins that she's wearing on her gown, probably to pin this part of the gown with the shoulder parts. He pulls them off, he takes the pins out, so the pin looks something like this, and it's got a long pin, spike, and it folds here. And he takes those, he jabs them in his eyes and does this. All this happens off stage. Nobody sees this. It's not allowed to be seen on the stage in ancient Greece. Okay? So he digs them down to the sockets of his eyes, crying, you, talking to his eyes, you'll see no more of the pain I suffered, all the pain I caused. Too long you looked on the ones you never should have seen. Who are the ones he never should have seen? Antigone, Ismene, his 2 daughters, his 7 sons. He never should have seen them. Why? Because he never should have had sex with his mother. It's just wrong in most cultures. Blind to the ones you longed to see, to know. Who are the ones he longed to see? He didn't know, but they were his real parents. Blind from this hour on, blind in the darkness, blind. Okay? Leader, oh, poor man. Has he any rest from pain now? That is he now satisfied with his suffering? The rest from pain, is he now free? Has any rest from pain now? Doesn't mean, is he now painless? It means, will his pain just kind of go on at this point? Okay? And they hear him shouting. And Oedipus comes out. All right? And Oedipus says a lot that we're going to skip. He talks to the chorus. The chorus is like, it'll be okay, essentially. And Oedipus says, line 1475, page 1479, what can I ever see? What love, what call of the heart can touch my ears with joy? Nothing, friends, take me away, far away from Thebes. Get me out of here. Why? Because of the curse that he uttered at the beginning of the play. All right? Oedipus also says that the shepherd should die. Of course, he's not king anymore, so he can't make that command. The one who cut my ankles free, he pulled me clear of death. He saved my life. For this kindness, curse him, kill him. If I died then, I'd never have dragged myself, my loved ones, through such hell. If he'd let me die, none of this would have happened. I'd never have come to this. Father's murderer, mother's husband, blah, blah, blah. All right? What I did was best, line 1500. Don't lecture me. Let me back up. 1498. How can I say you've chosen for the best? The chorus says, better to die than be alive and blind. Better to die than to be alive and not be able to. They don't mean just literal physical blindness. They mean better to die than be alive and stupid. Be an idiot like Oedipus was. Oedipus, what I did was best. Why? I went from ignorance to knowledge. I went from blindness to sight. I went from dark to light. I went from freedom. You could do it all the way across. I, with my eyes, how could I look my Father in the eyes when I go down to death? So, I gouge my eyes out. Why? So that when I die, and I go to Hades, Hades is not our understanding hell. It's just a place of the dead. When I go to Hades, and I meet my Father in the other world, I won't be able to look him in the eyes. I'll have to. I've done such things to the two of them, crimes too huge for hanging. Worse yet, the sight of my children. Okay? So Crayon comes in. And then the chorus says, put your request to Crayon, because he wants to know, what's going to happen with my children and such. And Oedipus is like, 1554. Why? What can I say to Crayon? I accused him of this. He accused him of the murder of Laius. Crayon, I haven't come to mock you, Oedipus, or to criticize your former failings. I'm not here to go, told you so, nor am I here to say, you. Right? You there, and he turns to the guards. Have you lost all respect for human feeling? At least revere the sun. In other words, why are you letting Oedipus out here in front of everybody? You should take him back inside. This should not be seen. Come on, piety demands no less. This is obscene. Please, in God's name, do one more thing. That is, not for me. In God's name. What? What do you want? Drive me out of the land at once. Why? Well, what did the first oracle from Apollo say? Not the one dealing with Oedipus's life, his destiny, but at the opening of the play.
The plague on the city.
The plague on the city. Drive the curse, the cause of the plague, from the city, and the city will live. This is Oedipus's way of saving the city. I'd have done that already. But I wanted the God to clarify my duties. That is, I would have already done that. But I sent for information from the God. In other words, I want to make sure I don't make a mistake. The God, his command was clear. Death for the father killer, the curse. He said, destroy me. So he did. But I thought I would just double check. Okay? You'd ask the oracle about a man like me, that is, you wouldn't just wipe me out? By all means. Yep. And this time, I assume, even you will obey the God's decrees. Why? And this time. What's the "and this time" really refer to? When you first went to the oracle, and the oracle said, you are fated to kill your father and sleep with your mother. What should Oedipus have done then? Accept the God's decrees. In other words, when it comes to fate, you can't make an end run around it. What did Oedipus attempt to do? He hears that prophecy and he starts to apply human logic. Well, Polybus is my father, Merope is my mother, I love my father and mother, I don't want to kill the one and sleep with the other, therefore I will leave. But fate said, You will kill your father. You will sleep with your mother. Seems to me he had at that point two choices, and that's all. One, kill himself to stop that from happening. Or two, well, if that's what's going to happen, sorry, Dad. Boom. Come on, Mom. I mean, if that's what fate said is going to happen, let's just cut to the chase. I mean, let's not spend 40 years wasting time. Okay? So, Oedipus says, I will. I'll do it. And bury her as you like, as you see fit. Keep in mind, the her is Crayon's sister. Okay? And then he also asks, what about my girls? 16:16. Because we see Antigone and Ismene are let in. And he says, oh, you sent me my darling girls. Why? To say goodbye to them. Crayon, you've pitied me. You've shown mercy to me, is what he means. Am I right? He says, yes. I know the joy they gave you all these years. The joy you must feel now. What's the joy he must feel now? It's a past tense joy. It's the joy you had with your daughter, not some weird sex thing, but just children, with your daughters in the past. The only joy he's going to have is the joy of memories. Okay? So, they come, Oedipus, feels their faces and everything, and then he tells Crayon, top of 1483, you are the only father they have now. Why? Because we who brought them into the world are gone, both gone at a stroke. Yocasta's dead. Oedipus isn't dead, but he's going to leave. And he will leave Thebes forever. Okay? So, Crayon said, all right, that's enough. You, into the palace, the children, okay? Oedipus, time for you to go. And we get to the end of the play, the very last part. The chorus comes out. Now, when the chorus comes out, that's the Exodus. All right? It's the last part. It's the ending. It's the leaving, if you want. And this happens in every Greek tragedy. It always ends with the chorus. Chorus gets the final word because the final word is what the author wants to leave you with. It's what the author wants you, the playwright, wants you to think about as you're leaving the theater. Okay? Look at the chorus's words. People of Thebes, my countrymen, look on Oedipus. That is, pay attention to him. He solved the famous riddle with his brilliance. He rose to power, a man beyond all power. Notice, he rose. When he began, he wasn't at top of the world. He was kind of like us. When he fled Corinth and came, he was an average Joe. But because he solved the riddle of the Sphinx, he rose up. People kind of look at characters like that and go, man, I wish I could be like that. I wish I could come up with an idea, like Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak did. Or like Bill Gates and his partner did. Or like Zuckerberg. Invent something that, transforms the world. It's essentially what Oedipus did. Who could behold his greatness without envy? Envy! I wish I could be like that. See, that's necessary for the catharsis, the purgation of those twin feelings of pity and fear. You got to want to be like that person and then go, maybe not. Now, what a black sea of terror has overwhelmed him. Okay? Black sea of terror. The emphasis isn't on the color, it's on what? You go deeper and deeper and deeper into the ocean, and what color does it get? Black. Okay? It's just darkness. You're up at the top, you're swimming at the beach, in the water just beneath the surface, it looks blue because you're looking and you can still see the sky. This means he's buried in it, essentially. Now, as we keep our watch and wait the final day, keep our watch implies what? Kind of like the opening language of Hamlet. What are Bernardo and Marcellus doing? And Francisco. They're keeping watch. They're on alert. As we keep watch, as we are alert in our lives, and do what? Wait the final day. Wait for our death. And notice that implication is like, we don't have to go to it, it's coming to us. We're gonna read a poem in here later on. Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. I'm too busy. So what did death do? Death caught up with me. Okay? Now as we keep our watch and wait the final day, count no man happy till he dies. It's not, don't count Oedipus happy till he dies. Count no man, no one. No one is happy where? Here. Until he dies. Free of pain at last. Remember what Hamlet says to Horatio? He says to take, breathe here in this place of tears. Draw your breath here in this world of pain. And do what? Tell my story. He says, absent yourself from felicity a while. Felicity, that is happiness, joy. It's the exact same idea here that we saw in Hamlet. Okay? Count no man happy till he dies, free of pain at last. Now, how's that for a quote-unquote worldview, an outlook on life? Does that make you get up in the morning? Make you want to get out of bed, go after and charge the day, make the most, build a future, No. Because what does it essentially say? Today's going to be bad. And what's tomorrow going to be? Probably worse. And what's the day after tomorrow going to be? Probably worse than that. It's like every day is going to be a tornado. And it's just going to be a bigger and a worse tornado. Okay? That is not a very positive outlook on life. Okay, we'll stop there. We're going to do Antigone. We'll do Antigone next week. Not next week, the week after break. And then we'll have the exam over all the drama stuff. And then we'll do the probably short fiction, and I'm almost positive I'm going to drop Fahrenheit 451.